In the distant reaches of the galaxy, there were many advanced civilizations. Each one was proud of its strength and technology. Yet, among them all, the Xallar stood out. Known for their might and superior intellect, the Xallar believed that they were the rulers of the galaxy. No one had ever dared challenge them, until Earth. The Xallar had been observing humans for a long time. They studied their history, their wars, their survival. What they saw amazed them. Humans, despite being so young compared to the other galactic species, had an undeniable drive. They survived wars, diseases, and environmental disasters, always pushing forward. The Xallar were intrigued but also dismissive. They believed that humans were still far too primitive to be a threat, but something about the way humans adapted to their challenges made them curious. So they decided to test Earth. One of the Xallar's greatest generals, Crantor, stood before the High Council, his piercing eyes scanning the room. "We should show the humans their place," he said. "We need to remind them that no species, no matter how persistent, can ever challenge the Xallar." The High Council listened in silence. They had heard of humans' battles and their resilience, but they still believed that no one could surpass them. The idea of the Xallar being challenged by any species was laughable. "The time has come," Crantor continued, his voice cold and confident. "We will send a challenge to the humans. Let them see what true power looks like. If they refuse, we will show them." The High Council agreed. They set their plan into motion. A message was prepared, and a fleet of powerful ships was assembled. The Xallar knew that no one had ever stood up to them before. They were confident that the humans would cower, just as other species had done in the past. The fleet of Xallar ships arrived over Earth without warning. Their ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were massive, sleek, and filled with advanced weapons. The Xallar had perfected space travel and weaponry, leaving other species in awe of their power. Yet they knew that their appearance alone would not be enough. They needed to make their challenge known. A broadcast was sent to every corner of Earth, a message that echoed across the globe. The humans, who had only recently begun to explore space themselves, were stunned. No one had ever dared to make such a statement, and no one had ever seen such advanced technology. The message was simple but menacing. "Humans of Earth, your time has come. You are a species with potential, but you have no place in the galaxy. We, the Xallar, challenge you. We will destroy your strongest city, and you will show us your strength. Refuse, and we will show you the full extent of our power." The message sent shockwaves through Earth. Fear spread like wildfire. Governments, military leaders, and scientists scrambled to make sense of the situation. Many believed that the end of humanity had come. There was no way they could stand against such a powerful force. The Xallar were too advanced, too strong. They had conquered entire worlds, and now they were targeting Earth. But amidst the fear, something unexpected happened. Across the globe, in the streets, in homes, and in the halls of governments, people were not bowing to the Xallar. They were not surrendering. Instead, they were coming together. People who had once been divided by borders and ideologies were now united in one singular cause: defend Earth. In every corner of the world, humans began to rise. Nations that had once been at odds with each other set aside their differences. They formed alliances, shared resources, and made plans to fight back. But the humans knew they could not rely on the same methods that had worked in the past. This was not an ordinary battle. This was an invasion by a force beyond anything they had ever seen. Yet there was one thing that made humans unique: their ability to adapt. They were not bound by tradition or established ways of fighting. They were a species that could think outside the box, find new solutions, and work together in ways no other species could. It was this very adaptability that the Xallar had underestimated. As the days passed, the world began to prepare. Weapons were developed at an astonishing rate, and plans were put in place. But it was not just the military that stepped up. Ordinary citizens, teachers, doctors, engineers, and farmers all joined the effort. Humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their way of life, for their future. The Exceller watched from their ships, amused at the human response. They had expected fear, panic, and eventual surrender. Instead, they saw something entirely different, a species that was fighting back with everything they had. The Exceller could not understand it. This was not how it was supposed to go. Crantor, watching from his command ship, smiled to himself. "This will be over quickly," he muttered. "These humans are no match for us." But deep down, he felt a nagging doubt. Something about the way they were reacting, how they were banding together, felt different. The Exceller had never faced anything like it before. The challenge had been made, the stage was set, and the fate of humanity would soon be decided. As the days passed, Earth's governments scrambled to respond to the alien threat. There was a sense of urgency in every action they took. Military leaders, scientists, and strategists worked tirelessly around the clock, but it quickly became clear that Earth's conventional forces were no match for the Exceller. The aliens had the advantage in every aspect: technology, weaponry, and sheer power. But what the Exceller didn't understand was the nature of humans. They didn't rely solely on technology and might. They had something deeper. Humanity's strength lay in their resolve, their creativity, and their sheer willpower. It wasn't just about fighting back with weapons. It was about thinking outside the box, about finding ways to adapt to any challenge that came their way. This was the first thing the Exceller had underestimated, and it would prove to be their downfall. The Exceller fleet hovered above Earth like a dark cloud, waiting for the humans to submit to their will. Their ships were equipped with weapons capable of destroying cities with a single blast. They had already begun targeting major cities, launching morning strikes to show their power. The humans, however, did not buckle. Instead, they did something unexpected. They fought back. In a small remote town in the American Midwest, a group of engineers, scientists, and local volunteers gathered. They had no formal military training, but what they lacked in experience, they made up for with determination. They began to reverse engineer some of the alien technology they had recovered after the initial attacks. Using what little they understood, they created a rudimentary weapon that could disrupt the Exceller's communication systems. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Meanwhile, in the underground bunkers of the European Union, top military strategists met in secret. They had taken every bit of intelligence they could gather from the Exceller's message, piecing together what they could about their strengths and weaknesses. The aliens were powerful, yes, but they were also overconfident. They didn't anticipate that Earth's people would fight back. In the bustling cities of Asia, thousands of citizens took to the streets, not to protest, but to organize. Engineers, farmers, and students alike contributed to the war effort. It wasn't just about fighting the Exceller. It was about proving to the galaxy that humans would not be intimidated. The world had united, and the Exceller, who had assumed that their show of force would break the will of Earth's people, were beginning to feel the first signs of doubt. Crantor watched from his command ship, his expression tight with frustration. The humans were putting up more resistance than he had expected. They should be cowering by now. He muttered to his second-in-command, Xura, who stood at his side. "They are a strange species," Xura replied, her voice tinged with a mix of confusion and concern. "They do not seem to understand the concept of fear. They are fighting back in ways we did not anticipate." Crantor clenched his fists. "It will be over soon. We will crush them before they have a chance to fully organize." But as he spoke, a small signal on his console blinked, an anomaly. A human-made weapon had managed to temporarily disable one of the smaller Exceller ships, and the humans had learned how to use their own technology against them. It was a small victory, but it was enough to show that humans could adapt faster than the Exceller had thought possible. The news spread quickly. The human resistance had struck a blow against the Exceller. Though it wasn't enough to turn the tide of war, it was a symbol, a sign that humans weren't as helpless as the Tattler had believed. Across the world, that small victory was enough to spark hope. People took to the streets to rally, supporting the war effort in every way they could. There were protests, yes, but they weren't about submission. They were about resistance. They were about a defiance that no alien force could extinguish. As the human resistance grew stronger, so did the Xalar's frustration. The more they attacked, the more the humans adapted. The humans had something that no other species in the galaxy had, a stubborn refusal to give up. And it was that very trait that the Xalar had overlooked. In underground bunkers, cities, and war rooms, humans worked relentlessly to develop new strategies and weapons. They were creating their own form of guerrilla warfare, small, calculated attacks, always staying one step ahead of the Xalar. Each time the Xalar thought they had the upper hand, the humans proved them wrong. The Xalar, however, were not willing to back down. They had made the challenge, and they intended to finish it. But the more they pushed, the more they began to realize that defeating Earth would not be as easy as they had thought. Krantor had long been known for his tactical brilliance, but even he was starting to feel the weight of the situation. The humans were a puzzle, and he wasn't sure how to solve it. Back on Earth, leaders from every corner of the globe met in secret. They knew that the Xalar were powerful, but they also knew that Earth's greatest strength was the very thing the aliens had underestimated: their unity. In their eyes, the fight was no longer about technology or firepower. It was about survival. They would not give up their planet without a fight. And so, Earth's resistance continued to grow. The challenge was not yet over, but humanity had shown the first sign of victory. They were not afraid. They were not intimidated. They would fight until the last breath. As the days turned into weeks, the Xalar began to notice an unsettling pattern. The more they attempted to dominate Earth, the more the humans adapted. Every attack they made, every strike they initiated, was met with unexpected resilience. It wasn't just the Earth's military forces. It was the people, the everyday citizens, who fought back. Their refusal to surrender, their creative solutions to problems, and their uncanny ability to quickly learn from mistakes were not things the Xalar had expected. In their homeworld, the Xalar had developed a reputation as the most fearsome warriors in the galaxy. Their technology was centuries ahead of most civilizations, their armies vast and disciplined. In their past conquests, they had encountered races that crumbled at the first sign of aggression, their societies fracturing under the pressure of war. But Earth was different. Humans were different. Krantor, the leader of the Xalar fleet, paced back and forth in his command center. His once confident demeanor had shifted. The humans were proving far more resourceful than he had anticipated. Xera. He called out to his second-in-command, his voice strained. "Report. What do we know about their latest counteroffensive?" Xera, a sharp strategist and seasoned warrior, studied the data on her screen. "They're using unconventional tactics, my lord. We receive reports that the humans have developed a new form of communication that bypasses our surveillance, and they are using their terrain to their advantage. They've turned their cities into fortresses, and their forces are hidden in plain sight." Krantor's fists clenched at his sides. How is this possible? They should be afraid. They should be begging for mercy. Yet they grow stronger with every battle. Xera hesitated, clearly concerned. It's their mindset, sir. They do not think the same way we do. They thrive in chaos. They adapt and overcome, using their emotions, their creativity, and their deep connection to each other. Krantor's eyes narrowed. So they aren't just fighting with weapons. They are fighting with something we can't quantify, something beyond our understanding. Xera nodded slowly. "Yes, my lord. And that is why we must be cautious. We may not be dealing with just a species of lowly creatures. We are facing something more, something that even we may not be able to control." Meanwhile, on Earth, the leaders of the resistance were beginning to sense the shift. They had not only managed to defend themselves, but had also taken their first steps toward turning the tide of the war. The Accelerator had underestimated the humans' ability to endure and adapt. This realization was the first crack in the foundation of their invincibility. General Maria Ortiz, one of the leaders of the Earth Defense Coalition, looked out over the military command center. The room was filled with a mix of military strategists, engineers, and analysts, all working tirelessly to find new ways to challenge the Accelerator. It was here, in the heart of Earth's war effort, that she saw the human spirit at its strongest. "We may not have the firepower the Accelerator have," she said to her team, "but we have something more. We have heart, ingenuity, and a determination to fight for our future. And that, my friends, is what will win this war." Her words resonated in the room. It wasn't just about technology anymore. It was about survival, unity, and the strength that humans drew from each other. It was the shared belief that Earth was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. In the streets, the fight was not just being fought with guns and missiles. People were rallying together, organizing protests, building barricades, and supporting the war effort in ways that no one had expected. Ordinary citizens became soldiers, activists, and strategists in their own right. It wasn't just about the military. It was a global resistance, and it was growing stronger by the day. As the weeks passed, Earth's military forces began to show signs of improvement. The alien technology that had been recovered was being reverse-engineered and used to turn the tide of battle. Weapons that once seemed out of reach were now in the hands of Earth's defenders. Communication systems that the Accelerator had once thought secure were being intercepted. Earth's forces were no longer merely defending. They were striking back. But the Accelerator weren't oblivious. They had seen the shift in the balance of power. Crantor and his commanders were beginning to understand that Earth's resistance was more than just a fleeting spark. It was a movement, one that could not be extinguished by force alone. The more the Accelerator attacked, the more Earth's resolve hardened, and with each failed assault, their confidence began to waver. Crantor sat in his command chair, deep in thought. "We've made a grave miscalculation," he admitted to his advisors. "The humans are not the weak, frightened creatures we thought they were. They are resourceful, they are dangerous, and they will never submit to our will." Zira looked at him with concern. "What do we do now, sir? We can't leave. The galaxy is watching. Our reputation is at stake." Crantor clenched his jaw. "We either finish this war quickly, or we risk losing everything." The Accelerator began to pull back slightly, reassessing their approach. They had realized that brute force alone would not win this war. It would take more than firepower. It would take a strategy they had never used before. And even as they adjusted their tactics, they knew one thing for certain. They had underestimated the humans. And that mistake might cost them the war. As Earth's forces rallied, they grew bolder. Humans had begun to understand the Accelerator's weaknesses, and they used that knowledge to their advantage. The first victory had been won, not on the battlefield, but in the hearts and minds of the people. They had proven that no matter how powerful their enemies, they would never back down. The war between the Accelerator and humans had now been raging for months. The once seemingly indomitable alien forces found themselves constantly on the back foot. Earth had, against all odds, begun to make significant strides in repelling the Accelerator. The tide had shifted, and the aliens had begun to realize they were facing something far beyond their expectations. On the battlefield, the humans were no longer acting defensively. They had learned from their previous encounters and were now taking the initiative. Earth's forces had adapted to the Accelerator's technology, turning it into a formidable weapon. The Accelerator, once invincible with their superior technology, were now on the run, retreating in several key sectors as humans began to launch their own offensive operations. The Accelerator commanders were frantic, scrambling to regain control of the situation. Crantor stood before the War Council, his face grim, his eyes narrowed in frustration. "We cannot allow this to continue," he growled, his voice filled with anger. "The humans are taking the initiative. If we do not stop them now, we will lose everything." Zira, who had once been confident in the Accelerator's superiority, Look down at the holographic maps of Earth. Our forces are stretched thin, my lord. They've learned to use our own technology against us. Every victory they score emboldens them. We must take decisive action, Crantor said, his voice now cold and calculating. We will hit them where they least expect it. We will divide their forces, separate them, and break their resolve. We cannot afford to underestimate them again. But even as the Excelsior prepared their new plan, the humans were not standing still. They were learning, adapting, and fighting harder than ever. In secret command centers, General Maria Ortiz and her fellow leaders were crafting strategies, organizing human resources in ways that took the Excelsior by surprise. Her words were met with a roar of approval from the assembled soldiers. They were ready. They had trained, fought, and sacrificed, but now they were ready to strike the final blow. The Excelsior had no idea what they were about to face. As the humans launched their final offensive, the battle took on a new intensity. The Excelsior forces, already stretched thin and demoralized, scrambled to adapt to the sudden shift in momentum. Their once pristine battle strategies were now being outflanked at every turn by the humans' unexpected tactics. The Excelsior had underestimated Earth's ingenuity, and now they were paying the price. The Excelsior leaders watched in horror as their defenses crumbled. The humans were relentless, never stopping, always advancing. The Excelsior warriors had never seen anything like this before. Every time they thought they had the upper hand, a human force would appear from an unexpected direction, overwhelming them with sheer numbers and unpredictable tactics. Crantor, the Excelsior warlord who had once been so confident in his people's superiority, stood before his command center, his fists clenched in frustration. We cannot lose. We cannot be defeated by these animals, he growled. Xira, his second in command, looked at the holographic display of the battlefield. Sir, their forces are everywhere. We can't fight them all at once. They're everywhere at once, like a swarm. We can't predict their next move. Crantor's eyes flashed with anger. We must end this now. If we don't, Earth will become a threat unlike any the galaxy has ever seen. But it was already too late. The humans had already seized the advantage, and they weren't about to let go. In space, Earth's fleets clashed with the remnants of the Excelsior Navy. Ships that once commanded fear and respect were now falling, one by one, under the relentless assault from Earth's forces. As the final wave of human soldiers advanced towards the Excelsior capital, their resolve was stronger than ever. The Excelsior had miscalculated. They thought they were fighting just another species, but humanity was different. They didn't fight for survival alone. They fought for the future of their world, for every dream they'd ever had, and for every person they loved. General Ortiz led the charge herself, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. The enemy's forces were faltering, but they still had the power to fight back, to dig in and resist. It would take everything they had left to finish the war. As Earth's forces pushed deeper into the heart of Excelsior territory, the final showdown loomed. The fate of both planets rested on the outcome of this final battle, and with every step, the humans proved that the Excelsior had made a mistake in underestimating them. Crantor, watching his forces break under the human onslaught, finally realized what had happened. The Excelsior were no longer fighting just for their lives. They were fighting to preserve a legacy that no longer had a place in the galaxy. Humanity had emerged as the true power, not because of their technology, but because of their unyielding spirit, their strength in unity, and their refusal to accept defeat. We have lost, Crantor whispered, his voice filled with bitter realization. Xira nodded silently. There was nothing more to say. The humans had won. And in doing so, they had proven something that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Never again would any species underestimate the power of humanity. As the last of the Excelsior forces surrendered, the humans stood victorious. Earth had not only repelled the invaders, but had secured its place as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. The war was over. The Xalor were defeated, and humanity had come out on top. It had been a long, difficult journey, but humanity had emerged stronger, more united, and more powerful than ever before. The galaxy would never forget the day that humans showed the universe exactly what they were capable of. The dust of battle had barely settled, and yet the vast expanse of space felt like a new frontier. Earth had emerged victorious in its clash with the Xalor, but the victory was not just about repelling an alien invasion. It was about sending a message to every civilization across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the underdog. The war had changed everything. The galaxy would never look at Earth in the same way again. General Maria Ortiz stood on the balcony of Earth's newly restored command center, staring out at the blue planet below. The battle was over, but the consequences of their triumph had only just begun. The alliance of alien species who had once seen humanity as weak or inferior now looked at them with a mixture of fear, respect, and awe. Ortiz had been there at the beginning, when humanity was just starting to recognize the full scale of the threat. And now she had seen it all: the courage, the strategy, the relentless spirit that had brought them to this point. Earth was not just a home to billions of people. It was a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. "General, the Xalor are surrendering en masse," a voice from behind her said. Ortiz turned to face one of her top aides, Lieutenant Jackson. "And the other species, what are they saying?" "They're still holding meetings. The Council's trying to figure out what comes next. Some want to make Earth a central hub of galactic peace, but there are others who think we've just upset the balance of power." Jackson paused. "Some still want to test us." Ortiz smiled, a hint of pride in her expression. "Let them test. Let them come. We'll be ready." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, representatives from the surviving alien races gathered in a massive space station. For the first time in millennia, the Alien Council was in chaos. The question wasn't how to deal with the humans. It was how to survive them. An alien elder, a tall, serpentine creature with scales shimmering under the station's artificial lights, spoke in a voice that vibrated through the room. "We underestimated the humans. We thought their nature was weak. We thought they were primitive. Now they've shown us the extent of their power. If they wished to, they could dominate us all." A smaller insectoid being clicked its mandibles in agitation. "We should have never provoked them. Their aggression knows no bounds. They do not fight like other species. They fight to win, to survive, to conquer." A third alien, a floating gas cloud with multiple eyes, buzzed in a high-pitched voice. "What is the next step? Do we approach Earth in peace, or do we prepare for war?" The first elder was silent for a long moment, contemplating the situation. Finally, it spoke again. "There's only one answer. We will meet with them. We will extend the olive branch. If they refuse it, we will be forced to reconsider our options." But even as the Alien Council debated, Earth's leaders were already preparing for the future. Humanity had proved its worth on the battlefield, but now they had to prove their ability to lead and unite the galaxy in the aftermath of such a significant victory. At Earth's newly formed galactic embassy, representatives from various alien civilizations were arriving one by one. The atmosphere was tense, each species unsure how to approach the humans who had just obliterated their invaders. But Earth's delegation, led by President Thompson, was calm and ready. "Welcome, ambassadors," President Thompson said, his voice steady and confident as he addressed the diverse group of alien leaders. "We've just concluded a war, but that war isn't what defines us. What defines us is our capacity for peace, our drive to thrive, and our ability to stand together, no matter the odds. The galaxy can either continue its cycle of war, or we can forge a new path, one where we collaborate, learn from one another, and grow stronger as a collective." A member of the Tarek species, a large insect-like creature, spoke up. "You've proven that your species is strong, but we're still wary of your potential. If we ally with you, we risk becoming targets of your enemies. How do we know we won't be betrayed, like the Xalor were?" President Thompson's gaze didn't waver. We've never been interested in betrayal. We've never been interested in power for its own sake. We fight because we have to, because we will do anything to protect our people. But we also believe in peace. If we've proven anything, it's that we know how to fight. But we also know how to build. We don't need to dominate the galaxy. We need to protect it. The room fell silent. It was clear that the human's words had made an impression. The tension in the air wasn't gone, but it had shifted. There was still doubt, still suspicion, but humanity's sincerity was palpable. The leader of the Utor species, a small bird-like creature, spoke quietly, but firmly. Perhaps Earth's way isn't so different from ours. Perhaps we have more in common than we thought. If we are to survive the challenges ahead, we will need to unite. President Thompson nodded. Exactly. Together, we can build something better. We don't need to fear each other. We can learn from one another, but only if we choose to work together. The meeting stretched into hours, with discussions moving from war to peace, from survival to prosperity. One by one, the alien representatives began to soften their stance. The Exceller's defeat was still fresh, but it became clear that humanity had no desire for conquest. The humans had won, but they weren't looking to rule the galaxy. They were looking to unite it. As the meeting came to a close, President Thompson turned to his team. It's not going to be easy, but we've taken the first step. The galaxy won't forget what we've done, and now we have the chance to shape its future. And so, the humans began to build alliances, starting with those who had once feared them. The galaxy would never be the same again. The balance of power had shifted, and humanity had emerged as a force to be reckoned with. The age of Earth's isolation was over, and a new era had begun, one where humans would not just survive, but thrive. As Earth's ambassadors returned home, they were met with mixed reactions. The victory over the Exceller and the subsequent diplomatic progress had changed the face of the galaxy forever. Earth was no longer just a blue planet in the distant corner of space. It had become the center of galactic politics, the heartbeat of a new era of unity and peace. However, not all alien species were convinced that humanity's rise to power would bring stability. Many viewed Earth's strength as a double-edged sword, unsure whether to embrace it or fight against it. The question of humanity's true intentions echoed throughout the galaxy, and the next steps were uncertain. At the newly established Galactic Peace Summit, Earth's representatives were prepared for the most crucial discussions of all. Alien species from every corner of the galaxy had gathered, each bringing their concerns, their hopes, and their fears to the table. The time had come to decide whether to embrace the future Earth had offered or reject it entirely. President Thompson stood before the assembly, a sea of alien faces staring back at him. The room was filled with anticipation, the weight of history pressing down on everyone in the chamber. Earth had proved itself in battle, but now the real test lay in diplomacy. We've fought together, and we've built together. We've witnessed each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we've learned that we are all more alike than we are different. Thompson began, his voice calm yet unwavering. Now we face a choice. Do we continue on the path of division, or do we step into the future united? The room fell silent. The gravity of his words settled in the air like a thick fog. Some species were ready to embrace humanity's vision, their leaders nodding in agreement. Others, however, remained stoic, unsure of what the future might hold. The Tsarek representative, the insectoid leader who had expressed concern earlier, stood and addressed the assembly. We cannot ignore the truth. We are afraid. We've seen Earth's power. We've seen the way humanity fights with everything they have, without hesitation. The Excelor were not the first to underestimate you, and they won't be the last. But that's why we fear you. If you seek peace, how can we trust you? Will you extend your hand, or will you seize our worlds when we least expect it? The words were sharp, and the room erupted into whispers. President Thompson stepped forward, meeting the Tsarek leader's gaze with unwavering confidence. "Your fear is understandable," he said, his voice steady. "But it is fear that has kept us divided for too long. Fear of the unknown, fear of what others might do. If you choose to remain fearful, we will never move forward. We will remain trapped in a cycle of suspicion and isolation. But if we choose to trust each other, if we choose to move beyond our differences, we will create something stronger than any of us could achieve alone." The silence that followed was deafening. It was clear that Thompson's words had struck a chord. Slowly, one by one, the representatives began to speak. The Utor, the small bird-like species, were the first to stand. "We've known peace for many generations, but we've also known war. We've seen both sides of the coin. Perhaps together, we can ensure that the future is one of prosperity, not destruction." Next, the Eldath, a race of glowing energy beings, spoke. "We've witnessed humanity's strength, not just in battle, but in their ability to adapt. They do not fight for conquest alone. They fight for survival. If their survival means the survival of the galaxy, then perhaps we should listen." One by one, the voices of doubt began to fade, replaced by cautious optimism. The final alien representative, a massive four-armed creature from a distant world, rose from their seat. "We have been the guardians of the galaxy for millennia, but the galaxy has changed. It is no longer about power, it is about unity. Earth has proven that they can lead. Perhaps it is time we allowed them to." With that, the decision was made. Humanity had secured its place at the center of the galaxy. Earth had proven its strength, not just through war, but through its willingness to fight for a better future, for itself and for the entire galaxy. The age of conflict was over. The age of collaboration had begun. In the following years, Earth became the anchor of a vast intergalactic alliance. Its leaders, generals, and ambassadors worked tirelessly to forge new relationships, to bridge the gaps between alien species, and to ensure that the horrors of war would never be repeated. The galaxy, once fractured and divided, slowly began to heal, and humanity stood at the helm of this new era. President Thompson's final address to the galaxy echoed across the stars. "We are all different, but that does not mean we are enemies. We are stronger together. We will face challenges, yes, but we will face them as one. The galaxy is ours to shape, and together we will build a future where peace is not just a dream, but a reality." As the sun set on Earth, casting a golden light across the planet, the galaxy, now united, looked toward a brighter future. Humanity had proven its place among the stars, and as the stars shimmered in the sky, Earth stood as a symbol of hope, strength, and the power of unity.